and it affects 6 million people, and mostly it's age-related, and it's also genetic. It's in my family. And it's made me into a much better painter, because I can't be careful, I can't be precise, and I have to let go much more. This a disadvantage turned into an advantage. You know, the work that I was most nervous about, I now find find that it was ridiculous. I was a talented young painter, you know, and actually I got started very young and got public recognition at the age of 24. Well, here I have early paintings. We can show those. I just had an exhibition of early work in Provincetown Art Association. It's 54. I was influenced, of course, by Braque, and but you know, at the same time, I'd make a painting like what's in the back. That's like your typical Hofmann student-type painting. I had the idea that an artist should be like like Van Gogh and Cézanne, that whatever there was in the world, one should paint. Even Impressionism at its best, let's say, great Cézannes or great Pissarros, I think, get away from description. They become something else. And I think it's still a good idea, except I don't see anybody who's able to do it. Well, here's an early painting of mine that's not too different color-wise from what I'm doing now. That happened to me when I got more and more interested in texture, because I saw that color takes away from textural involvement. It was just painterly, you know. I mean, I was a Hofmann student. We all painted like that. And I got very much involved in the sort of the hazes that Venice and Tuscany are famous for. And I think I was trying even then to do something which I'm still trying to do, which is to get away from description. And at the same time still stay a landscape painter. Professor!
Ehi maestro, tutto bene? Ciao.
No, tutto bene, è esagerato.
We met in Rome. He was an American in Italy.
Yeah.
I was very taken by American painting in general.
They were, you know, the better Italian painters were influenced, I think, at that point by abstract expression.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was very taken by it, and I tried to befriend these people who are older than me, you know, to learn, really. I went to their studios, and somehow we made friends, he and Emily, his wife, who was also a very good painter that I appreciate immensely. And so we frequented one another, and I was coming to New York, and so Wolf and Emily offered me their studios. New York people who were your older peers, they affected you also.
Oh yes, the Kooning. But when I was doing like this painting, I think I was mostly influenced by, let's say, something like Guston. You know.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
And of course Morandi.
That's true.
Morandi was always
Morandi. I remember it from those times.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
The word was around that Hofmann was where it's at, and I went over to Hofmann's with my GI Bill, and I enrolled there, and I was there for a year, and then I became Hofmann's studio assistant. You know, he was a formalist. He felt that the main thing about a picture is it should be a coherent structure, and I still feel that. You know, I always have a horizon. I have the traditional formats, you know, schemes of landscape. I still didn't know whether I was going to be really a full-time artist or not, and in fact, I did lose being close to Hofmann, who was really a larger figure than life. You know. I thought, well, if you have to be that unusual to be an artist, forget it, I'm not going to be one. and I became very depressed and became a kleptomaniac, became impotent, and had all sorts of really serious problems. So I said, well, you know, if that's what it takes to be an artist, I better forget it. I go back to school, because I've always been a good student. I went to the University of Chicago, and I got my degree in 8 months. I wrote this essay about, and I gave it to the art historian, the professor, and he thought that, you know, for an undergraduate, that was quite something. He didn't know that I'd already been steeped in a long history of painting. And so he made sure that I would get a fellowship to the School of Humanities. And I went out after Chicago. I had did a research project, which is what was the most money that an unskilled worker could make in the United States, because I was totally broke. And I found out doing road work in Alaska or working in the logging in the Northwest, in the woods. So I didn't want to go to Alaska. You know, I sort of had a feeling I'd freeze.
So you went logging?
So I went logging. And I was in the woods, and I loved it. I loved it, being there, you know, and I kept drawing again. I'm going to go back to being a painter. You know, I'd gotten all my you know, my yichus back, you know. And I went back to New York, and I reestablished contact with all the people I'd studied with at Hofmann's. Existentialism was very, very hot then.
I mean, was it important to you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the whole idea that you couldn't make generalities and that you had to do everything on the spur of the moment, and that the only authenticity was spontaneity. You know, I mean, that's abstract expressionism, you know. All the way to about 57, you know, when I went off to chase after Emily in Italy. We lived there in Venice for 2.5 years. It impacted my work in the sense that I got more and more involved in light, to the point where I made all white paintings. Cruise ships that were painted all white, going through a milky landscape, you know. I had a moment in which, like the Hofmann Mafia, as I say, you know, for a very brief time, really dominated the art world in let's say 53, 54, you know. There was all sorts of people from Hofmann who kind of starting to take over the art world. You know. And then the pop artists came along and totally, you know, shoved us to the sidelines. Well, I was in Italy at the time, and it didn't really, I didn't know about it. You know, I came back and I had a show, and nothing happened in my show, you know. And I said, oh, I see, you know, something else happened in the meantime, you know, things are not the same.